Sharing. Okay, we are live on Facebook. So hey everybody, thanks for joining us today for this Paul and Greg series today. Okay, so today we have Kim Southwick here. Kim has been so generous to share her time with us. Kim, what I understand is that you used to work with builders. I think you worked directly for a builder.
Correct.
So why don't you give it, okay, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I worked for Eastbrook Homes. I was a sales rep for them for 2 years, 06 to 08. Okay. And then before that, I worked for Pulte Homes. Oh. So I was a sales rep just for them. I couldn't list any other properties. Okay. I did have my real estate license and my new construction sales specialist license. And yeah, so I represented the builder, and so I worked with other agents and worked with the builder. And so I feel like now I have the perspective of both sides, working on both sides.
I'm hoping you can give us some really good insight here. I'm wanting to know a few things. I know that generally people are kind of curious, like, how does that work? How do we negotiate with a builder?
Right.
I'm curious how, people want to know, how do you negotiate with builders? Because sometimes they go, nope, these are the prices. Nope, can't do it. Nope, already bought all that stuff. So I guess starting out, Greg, what's the thing that you want to know most about working with builders? What's the number one thing that you hear right now?
Well, I think the thing that I generally get the calls after the fact when our agent is now in a state of shock and confusion because the builder is saying, I don't owe you anything.
Okay. So Kim, before we go down this road, we're gonna ask you some questions because I know you want to show us ways we can generate more value for our clients in that process. But we're also going to ask some more of these kind of challenging questions like the one Greg just asked.
Absolutely. So I think that is one of the things that, as agents, we're all kind of, hesitant about new construction just because we've heard this, the stories, or it's personally happened to us where, we've had a buyer that we've been working with for a really long time. And then all of a sudden they hook up with this builder. We didn't know about it. And now we're not getting paid. And, that's an awful situation, obviously. One of the things that I do in my buyer consultation is talk to them about new construction. So I bring it up. First off, I ask if they're interested, if they're in that price range. If they're a $200,000 buyer, then I'm not talking about it, obviously. But if they're at all in that price range, I am definitely talking about the pros and cons of new construction, asking if they're interested. Even if they're not interested, what I do personally is I look in the areas that they're looking in. I will go to those builders. I will reach out to the salespeople and I'll register my clients. So right off the get-go, I'm registering my clients so they know that, hey, that's my buyer. In case, because there's always those stories where they're out going on, on a trip to Target and they happen to stop in a model home and they sign in, they don't put your name down, and now you're out. Because the builder wants you to set up the appointment and to bring them through. Well, we know that sometimes that isn't always going to happen so nice in that way. So I just kind of protect myself that way by reaching out to those salespeople. And, it's always good to develop those relationships too. Because I have had because I did have a good relationship with a salesperson, somebody did go into an open house and I didn't have them registered. They went into a model home. I didn't have them registered, but I heard about it. So I quick called them up. That's the other thing. If that happens, make sure you call right away and, work on that. And then because I did have a good relationship with them, I was still able to represent my client.
So Kim, I want the agents to really understand this, how important this is.
It is.
And so you're doing a buyer consultation.
Yes.
And as part of that buyer consultation, you're going to make sure that you bring up the idea, whether they brought it up or not, you're going to bring this up.
Correct.
About new construction. And are you aware there's new construction and there's there's these small builders and then there's these bigger builders.
Yep.
And, you know, maybe in this type of a market, they may have something. A deal could have fallen through. Somebody could have changed their mind. There could be a number of reasons, but what you're trying to do is to eliminate the freak moment when your buyer stumbles into one of these builders, and because they made a wrong turn that day, you end up losing out on a $10,000 or $12,000 payday.
Correct.
Yep.
Correct.
You know, I know this might sound interesting, Kim, but not a lot of agents, some of the newer agents in the company aren't really even aware that you can actually get commission when your client wants to go buy a house. By introducing them to that builder, you can get your commission. So I was sitting with an agent a few weeks ago and she was like, yeah, my clients want to build. And I was like, hey, you know, you should call that builder and just confirm that they're going to pay a 3% commission or whatever it is that you want to be paid. And she reached out and sure enough, they were like, oh yeah, definitely. We can mark you down for that. And it was just a simple call.
Exactly.
Boom.
And that's what I'm saying. Just by being proactive. What builders don't like is they feel like they call it being backdoored. So in you know, when I worked on the other side, I would have it like, you know, the buyer never mentioned an agent, even though I may have said to them, hey, are you working with an agent? Sometimes they'll say, oh, we did a little bit, or, you know, they kind of, sometimes buyers think, here's the other thing, buyers think that they can get a better deal if they don't use an agent. Right. So that's another thing that I go through with them in the buyer consultation, that, hey, if you do decide that new construction might be right for you, just know that by using an agent, the price is not increasing to pay me. The price is the same whether you use an agent or not. And so you might as well use an agent, because then you have an advocate, somebody who's there looking out for you and your best interest. Because the builder salesperson, and I always tell them this too, the builder salesperson that you meet, the friendly person, they, you know, they're really nice and they're full of information and everything, but they're there to protect the interest of the builder. You
know, Kim, that's funny. I had a friend of mine who was building in another state. He was like, oh man, we got this great salesperson. Like, they really raked the builder over the coals. I mean, they went to bat for us. And I was like, are you sure? They work for the builder.
Right.
They're hired and paid for by the builder. What do you mean they really got the builder? I'm sitting here going, so there is that sort of misunderstanding, I think, from buyers on, because the person at the door that opens the door, that's the host, seems really friendly.
Yes. Well, and they are,
right.
And they want to sell a home, but still they're being paid by the builder.
Just like when you go to a car lot, we know that nice person who walks out and wants to talk to you about that car works for the car dealer.
Exactly.
So, Paul, the one of the things I think you said that Kim really wants to get out here on the table is how to work for that buyer with the builder. To
create value, yeah.
To create value. So, Kim, let's go down that road. I know that time will go fast here if we don't get there. So,
yeah. Sure. That's the other thing. I think a lot of agents feel like, well, you know, I just drop them off and that's it. And maybe that's part of it. You don't have to do some of the things that you would do with a resale. But I look at it as a time, this is probably, if they're starting from scratch and they're like picking out a floor plan, picking out all the design elements and all of that, and then building. I mean, this is probably an 8-month or so process. So this is
100 decisions, right?
Yep. And that's one of the things too, I tell my buyers, if you have a hard time choosing where to go to lunch, building might not be for you, because there are a ton of decisions. So anyway, so here are some of the things that I help with. I provide information, of course, on different communities and the builders, and kind of like the builder's reputation, not knocking any of the builders, but saying kind of maybe what one is known for. Like maybe they're really known for communities or a lot of square footage for the price. And so they kind of get my drift that way. So I give them that information. I advise on lot selection, because sometimes they just want to get the cheapest lot, or they go for a really expensive lot that really the builder think that's a great lot, but when you look at it as a real estate person, you're like, not so much. It's right there, you know, close to a busy street. Another thing is advising on upgrades and selections. This is a big one because sometimes buyers get really caught up in all the beautiful finishes, which are wonderful, but some of those things are things that can be done further down the road. And maybe it's smarter for resale purposes to do the third stall garage or, you know, to put a third zone for heating and cooling, or, you know, things that are that, you know, would be difficult to do later on or really expensive to do later on. You can always switch out some of your finishes later on, but let's up front get the things that are really important. So providing that guidance, walking through with the builder, like there's different walkthroughs, the pre-drywall walk, you know, the walk before closing, attending those. I attend the design meetings with my buyers too. First off, I love design. I love all that stuff. So I enjoy that, but that's also, they look to me and say, you know, do you think that looks good as far as like their finishes and stuff? And so I'll guide them on that, try to keep them. I mean, it's their house. Obviously they can do whatever they want with it. But if they're looking at some funky countertop that's like this, you know, I just try to, in a nice way, kind of guide them maybe in a different direction. Also, it's great because you can be another set of eyes during that building process. I tell them I go every other week and visit the job site. So I'm looking, I have the plans, I have all their finishes and selections as well. And yes, the builder salesperson is supposed to do it too, but you know what? A lot of times they get busy and so they're not. You know, yes, there's a project manager and there's the buyer, but things get missed. I mean, there's so many people who work on a house and things do get missed. So, and if you can catch them quicker, that can help because then it's not such a big problem, you know, at the end. So those kinds of things. And then of course, managing deadlines, making sure that they're getting their paperwork done by certain times and things like that. So there's lots of things that we can do. The one thing that I would also kind of point out is be a help, not a hindrance. Because sometimes I think agents, and we see this just in regular deals, they almost like create problems so they can solve a problem, and you don't want to do that. You just want to be a good advocate, have a good relationship with the builder, and just look out for your client. That's all. You're just making sure that everything is happening the way it's supposed to.
Yeah, you're not supposed to be, and I worked with a lot of builders and condo projects as well. And I've had experiences with Pulte and the national home builders. And what I found is that they have quite a system where they take the buyers through it.
Yes.
And they've got it down. They've got the checklist. And now the smaller builders are not so much. They're going to fly by the seat of their pants a little bit more. And it's, but it's important that the agent understand, I think, that that person that's guiding them through the process does not really want you involved and slowing them down.
For sure.
And creating problems.
For sure.
And so it's great that you're there, but you don't want to be a pest. You don't want to overwhelm. I mean, you're already saying that in effect, but I just know that I've seen builders. It's like, hey, thank you. We're going to pay your 3%. Now leave.
Yes.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And you have to kind of read that too. And so if you do have a builder like that, then okay, but still you can still be there though to kind of guide your clients and just maybe not communicate so much then with that builder.
And again, I want to go back to, you were talking earlier about lot selection. The builders know which are their sweetheart lots and which aren't. And they don't always guide you to, if they can unload one of their not so hot lots, they will do it.
Absolutely. And that's where you can be a huge help to your buyer because you can sift through that for sure.
Yeah.
Is there any way, Kim, when you're negotiating with these builders, I mean, when you go to talk to Eastbrook, when you go to talk to Pulte, or these big builders like Allen Edwin, for example, as well.
Right.
Like this is like, there's our sell sheet. That's
Yep.
it. There, take it or leave it. Or is there any way to negotiate with them on anything at all? Or are you just kind of stuck with the sell sheet?
In this market, pretty much.
Yeah.
But I would say if there's a spec home that's been on the market for a while, that's where you're going to have the most leverage, is with a spec home if they want to dump it, because it's, you know, the carrying cost on it. So you might have some wiggle room there. Here's the other thing. They want the sales price at a certain point. So when it does come time where we can negotiate a little bit more, you're going to be better off with maybe getting some options, like negotiating maybe a $5,000 credit at the design studio, or, you know, getting them to include, you know, some options.
So they would rather keep the prices high for their future sales than to negotiate with you down.
Right.
And they'll give you those options back to keep the price here.
Right.
So landscape, underground sprinkling,
Right.
finishes in the lower level, the extra large deck.
Their goal is to keep those sold prices, those comps as high as possible. Got it.
Yep, keep the comps as high as possible. They know other builders too are looking at their finished prices, and they want to keep that per square foot price up there. But you know, I will say right now it's hard to get anything. I did on one recently, I was able to get them to include a couple of like smaller things that maybe amounted to like $500, but in this market, hey, and I was able to get them to take a lesser deposit to get the process started, because they wanted 5,000 and I got it down to 2,500, and then they put their 10% down later. So, you know, you can sometimes do those kinds of things. But it's going to be that overall sales price that's difficult.
That's good. That's interesting though. That's good advice.
Do you have a list of builders? Do you have a list of developments, or where do you go to get, if an agent's just getting started and they're like, they got no idea right now, where are these developments? Where is this new construction taking place?
Well, we have a lot going on. Like, okay, right now on Grar, like you said, there's 176 new construction homes out of 502 houses for sale. That's 35% of the market is new construction. So if you're not selling new construction, you're missing 35% of the market. In Lowell, that number is half of the market right now is new construction. In Byron Center, it goes up to 70%. Wow. So I would say what I would do is concentrate on one area at a time. So like if you live in a certain area, let's say you live in Byron Center, first, obviously there is the MLS. However, if you go on to Zillow has a builder program. And so you're going to see many more listings for builders on there that you can look to see as well. And sometimes your smaller builders too don't want to list on the MLS, but they will put it on Zillow. The other thing that I would do then is drive around the area. I mean, you just, you know, get in your car and drive around, and you're going to see possibly before even, you know, like they're just moving dirt and nothing really is going on yet. So that's a way. Another thing too is if you're really concentrating on an area, go to the township meetings, because the township meetings are going to have probably a zoning or a planning request to change it to a PUD or, you know, some kind of thing like that. So then you're going to have the heads up that that's coming as well.
Good.
Yeah.
So are there, I always like to dismiss the myths of whatever, you know, are there, when you think about building, what myths do you hear that are just not true, but yet they seem to be common in the vernacular of people? Can you think of things like that
Well, you mean as an agent or,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
sorry,
Well,
as-
either way.
Well, you know how when an agent's talking or someone's talking like, oh yeah, you think you're going to build for that price, add 15%, you know, that kind of stuff. Is that real from what you're seeing?
Yeah. Well, of course, building is expensive right now, but so is resale. I mean, resale is incredibly expensive as well. So they're both, expensive. So it's, what are the pros and cons of it?
Yeah.
And, customization, at least with new construction, you're probably not competing there. You're not going to have competing offers probably, which is really nice. It's going to be a longer payday. Possibly there are some builders who, if they're doing a construction loan, they'll pay you out of the first draw with a construction loan. That's the other thing I would say. If you have time, talk to a lender about construction loans so that you're familiar with that. And then some builders, your bigger builders, are going to finance the project for the buyer. New homes are more energy efficient. They can choose so many things. So there's lots of pros to that. As far as myths go, I think one myth is people equate it to buying a new car. So you know how like if you buy a new car and you drive it off the lot, you supposedly lost 19%.
Yep.
And so they think that new construction is the same way. You build this house, but if you turn around to sell it the next year, you're going to lose money on it. And that's not necessarily so, especially in this market. So it might appreciate at a lower rate because it is brand new. So it might not appreciate as much in the beginning, but then eventually it does. So I would want to know, like, how long do you plan on staying in the home? If you're only planning on staying in the home for maybe 2 years, then maybe that's not the best option for you. But I have seen people still, make it back. But it used to be like, oh, you may not to, but in this market, But I think that's one myth that I hear.
Okay. All right. So I'm gonna.
How long?
Paul, go ahead.
Greg.
We're getting close to the end, but go ahead and ask your question. And I want to ask a question about cost per square foot.
Are you seeing about a 9-month start to finish time frame right now, or what are you seeing out there?
Yeah, for sure. At least. Yes, some are taking, 12 months. So yeah, it is definitely a 9-month or more timeline. And part of it has to do with there's some supply chain issues. Those are getting a little bit better. But if things start shutting down again or something, I mean, that could really, put a wrench in it. But yeah.
Okay. All right, Greg, take it away.
So is it possible today to build a home for under $200 per square foot?
No.
And if you get into a home where you're looking at all hard surfaces, you're looking at 10-foot ceilings on the main floor, 9-foot lower levels, covered porches, 3-stall garages, not just one solid vinyl color on the outside, can you come in under 300?
I would say it would depend on your location.
But unlikely.
Well, if you build a 2,000 square foot house, for 300 bucks a square foot, you're at 600. You can get a pretty decent house for 600, depending on your square footages there.
Oh, for sure. Well, and depending if it's a ranch or not too. Ranches are always more expensive per square foot. So yeah, so it would depend.
So again, bi-levels are your least expensive per square foot.
Bi-levels are definitely your least expensive, yes.
And 2 stories are less than a ranch.
Yes.
And pretty much what we're talking about is surface area of a ranch is bigger exposed areas than a 2-story because you've got built on top of each other, right?
Right. It's cheaper to go up than it is to go out.
All right.
Yeah.
Awesome. So Kim, I thank you so much for taking the time to do this. We are nearing the end. I think this is going to be really helpful for a lot of people who have never really sold new construction to hear some of this conversation. And even those people who have, but in this market, things are a little different. So I appreciate that perspective. Is there anything else that you want us to know, Kim, about new construction that was on your list before we head off?
I would just say to keep your options open, to be proactive. Be proactive with builders. Don't shy away from it. Just reach out to them. Most of them are pretty easy to deal with. Most of them are pretty nice. You're going to find one, of course, here or there who isn't. Build relationships with the salespeople too. Even if you don't, I mean, especially if you're a new agent and you don't, have much going on, heck, go through some model homes, meet some of the salespeople, get to know these neighborhoods, and then you can talk about it on your social media.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Head to the design centers if they're a bigger builder. Check it out.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. And then, and start looking at the cost per square foot. Look at and educate yourself on ask the builder too, what makes you different than other builders? And they, the salesperson should be able to just rattle that right off. And then that will help you when you're working with your buyers.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kim.
Yeah,
I love the consultative part in the beginning. I think that's the key to the 5-star agents getting paid. Is knowing right up front what you're dealing with. Right. And if there's any possibility whatsoever, you better be proactive and you better get in front of this. Otherwise, the train's going to be has left the station and you'll be sad.
Exactly. You'll be really, really sad. Yep. So just reach out, register your clients, even if the buyer says, nope, not interested, you just never know.
Yeah.
Excellent advice.
Great.
All right. Well, if you guys have any questions at all, feel free to fire your questions in here, and Kim and we will keep an eye on this video here. So if you have questions about new construction, we're happy to keep answering questions.
Sure. But, and if anybody would like to reach out to me personally, please feel free.
Awesome. Thank you, Kim,
for that offer.
All right.
Thanks.
That's it today. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Kim.
Bye.
Bye.